I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the conversation with Al McFarlane. Today is Thursday, November 30th, 2022. How fast the year goes. We're looking at a new one coming up, hopefully an exciting and productive one. Wednesdays, we call it building wealth. We talk to people in community, friends who are doing wealth building as individuals, as organizations, as businesses, or across all three of those channels. And today is no exception. We're pleased to have some friends from Bank of America who have a project called Neighborhood Builders. I'm pleased to have here today two of the leaders. I'll introduce them in a second. And another part of today's program is with a continuing series of interviews with Finnovation Fellows. We have one of the business owners in that series here as well. So stay tuned for a lot of information about business initiatives, about businesses, and about the spirit of building community. So let me first go to Lucas Giambelluca. Lucas, you can tell me if I'm saying the name properly or not.
Al, that was really good. That is probably the closest I've had anybody do it on a first try. So,
well, good. Thank you. Thank you. Lucas is the president of Bank of America, Minnesota, and I'm asking him to talk about the Neighborhood Builders Program. The reason this comes up is that I got an email from one of his team members, a friend of mine named Bruce Ann Phillips, who said, look, we're doing some powerful stuff here in Minnesota, and you ought to talk to the people over at Bank of America. And I said, absolutely, let's make it happen. And Lucas, just so you know this, I mentioned this to you before show, so you won't be surprised. I jumped at the chance to meet you, to do this interview, because your company, Bank of America, Minnesota, is my single biggest advertiser, period. And so you run full page ads in color at least once a month, sometimes a couple of times a month. And you have realized the value of connecting to our community through Black media, through Insight News. And so I just want to say to you, thank you so much. Thank you for your business. And let's move it from 1 page a month to 2 pages a month. let's grow the relationship. So listen, tell me about the Neighborhood Builders Program. And if you would introduce your teammates who are here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Al, I've got to say, I shared with you earlier too. I think I'm maybe more starstruck, right? So I really appreciate the recognition and the partnership we have. But, as I shared with you, I was at Golden Time having coffee last week and I saw one of your flyers out for the radio show. So I thought, oh my gosh, this is real. I get to be on the show with Al McFarlane. So I really appreciate the opportunity and thank you for inviting me.
Well, that's gracious. Thank you so much.
And yeah, and I'd love to tell you about the Neighborhood Builders Program. And, we've got some really great people joining the call today, as you know, 2 of our recipients for this year. But if I walk you through the program and why it's so important, I think that'll really resonate with everybody. So
let's go for it.
Yeah. So Neighborhood Builders is one of our signature programs for Bank of America. And the focus of the program is to figure out how can we advance economic mobility and develop nonprofit leaders, right? The whole point of it is to figure out how to create a more sustainable community for all communities. And one of the ways we do that through this program is by providing the nonprofits who are recipients with critical tools to develop their leaders and unrestricted funding. So we've been doing this program at the bank for, oh my gosh, it's been 18 years now. And nationally, through the program, we've worked with we're in 92 communities. We've worked with 1,500 nonprofits. We've invested more than $300 million in these organizations. Here locally in Minnesota, we've been doing it since 2004. We've worked with now 14 recipients with our 2 newest ones that we've brought on board. And that's been around $3 million we've invested. So the program, to me, I love being a part of it because core to what we talk about as a bank is how do we invest in our communities? What makes us successful, right? And for us to be successful, we're only going to be as successful as the communities that we're in. And Al, we really view a program like this as a way to partner with these organizations, right? This is not about us saying, here's funding, we're going to tell you what to do with it and have some sort of KPI tied to it. It's like, we trust you, we know you, and we know you're going to make the right decisions with this funding, which, by the way, it's a $200,000 grant that we give. And again, it's unrestricted. They get to do what they want with it.
Well, introduce your team members first and then the two recipients for this year. And my commitment is to, starting with this conversation, go back and over the next year, interview the 14 previous recipients that you've had in Minnesota. I'm going to come back to you too, Lucas, and ask you to talk about, Bank of America's presence in Twin Cities growing, and what have been the factors that have invited you and encouraged you to see this as a market of opportunity. And then I want to ask you your personal story as well. So that's kind of the arc of my conversation. And like I said before, feel free to take the conversation where you want it. This is about creating the space for you to connect, share, and people to know you and see you and be with you.
Yeah, that sounds great, Al. Thank you. So I know we've got Jenna on, who's stepping in from our team as well. And, I would welcome Jenna to share anything else that I missed about our Neighborhood Builders program. So Jenna, good to see you again. Thank you for joining us.
No problem, Lucas. I would say that you pretty much hit the nail on all about the program and everything that we try to do when it comes to the Neighborhood Builders program and how we try to help the community. So I don't have anything to add.
Well, so before we bring the guests, the other two companies, let me ask you personal questions. How have you come to banking, Lucas, and then Jenna? How have you both come to your company? What brought you in your personal development to the career spot that you're in right now? Lucas, maybe you first.
Yeah, absolutely, Al. So it's an interesting story, right? Just to share with you personally, I'm originally from Chicago. I've been in Minnesota a really long time now. My wife is from St. Paul. So, that was one of those things where once we got married, I knew eventually I was going to end up back in Minnesota, because that's like one of their lifelong things they're supposed to do is find somebody who's not from Minnesota and bring them back. But we met in college, and, I studied business management and economics, and I was a young kid. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it, but I happened to kind of just fall into banking. And I've been in banking for, it's been 20 years now. And I think what's been important for me throughout my banking career, Al, whatever the position was I had, I always tried to focus on, what am I doing to make an impact, right? I have customers that I'm working with, and that is important. And I've got these core values that are a part of the organization that I'm with. And that's really important. But then how do you put those things together and make sure you're really making a difference for everybody around you? So I've always tried to hold myself to this standard of, if I'm doing the right thing for my clients, if I'm doing the right thing to make sure that things are equitable and things are working for everybody, in the community where I live and work, well, if I keep my focus on those things, probably everything else is going to work out pretty well. So
that's awesome. That's wonderful to hear. It's a common story too among business leaders in community, and it's wonderful to hear that expression in the personal context. Jenna, what about you? How have you come to your position now as a member of a banking organization?
So my story is not that interesting. I'm on the marketing side of things. I work with an agency who Bank of America is a client with. So we help with providing stories to outlets just as you all, to get the messaging that the great things that Bank of America is doing out there. So that way we can get more of the information out there for people to know.
Well, so it's about relationships. And I
Yes.
can tell you from my side, it's important that you and Bruce Ann are where you are, because you keep us connected and you do the background, the spade work, and you make it easy for us to do what we do best. And I call that having moments like this, conversations, high-level conversations that are both about principle, about practice, and about the personality that each of us brings to community and to work. Well, let's talk to the two recipients, and I'll have you introduce them. I know Henry, but I'm meeting Amanda, but maybe Lucas, you do the honor of introducing them both.
Oh, my pleasure. And I will tell you, it has been so fun for me to get to know these two leaders. They are just fantastic people. So, as you mentioned, we've got Henry Jiménez, who is from LEDC, the Latino Economic Development Center. and he was one of our neighborhood builder recipients. And then we've got Amanda LaGrange from Repowered. And Al, I could spend so much time talking about the work that their organizations do, but I'm going to let them do that. But I will tell you, like when we went through this process to select them, it's one of those things you look at the applicants and you say, we could really pick anybody, right? Like these are really good organizations and really good people. But when we did it this year and we looked at, what Henry and Amanda put together, what they talked about their organizations doing, the impact that they were having in the community around things like, hey, we're removing economic barriers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're figuring out ways to help small businesses succeed. We're making sure that everybody has a chance to be successful in their role, in their community, and do something that they love. It became one of those things where we were like, these two are so deserving, and I couldn't be happier to have them be a part of our neighborhood builders family. So,
well, Henry, jump in first and talk about LEDC, Latino Economic Development Corporation, right? Corporation.
Center.
Okay, thank you.
But Al, if I could start, first of all, thank you for having me on. And as you mentioned, Bank of America and Lucas are not just investing and that's it. They're actually investing in building a relationship and a trusting relationship. And that kind of reminds me of the relationship that I have even with you. I feel like every time I have a different job, you've been invested in, hey, what are you guys doing? Can you talk to us about that? And so, an investment in your show is also an investment in us and vice versa. So I really appreciate that connection.
Yes, absolutely.
The Latino Economic Development Center, we focus on Latino and other immigrant entrepreneurs and small businesses, and we want to make sure that they can start their business and or expand their business. And so for that, they need access to capital. And what I could tell you is as easy as it might sound to say, hey, someone has a great idea, money should be flowing. It doesn't necessarily work that way. And again, relationships are important. And I could tell you that even after, the ceremonies and whatnot, I'm already building a great relationship with Lucas and his team that I could tell you that I trust that I can then say, hey, we have this entrepreneur or business owner, we can only get them this far, but now I have a relationship, with Bank of America. Not that that's the point of this, but there really is a point. This is how you build neighborhoods, right? You build a neighborhood because not one person can do everything. You're going to need your doctor, you're going to need your business owner, you're going to need all kinds of folks to build a neighborhood. And you're also going to need, institutions that help you, like LEDC or like Bank of America. And so with that said, Al, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think the fact that we're building neighborhood and LEDC's part is by supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs.
So what are your strategies, Henry? What priorities do you have in engaging and supporting businesses in the Latino community? Is there a sector that you're specializing in, or is it whoever comes? I mean, what's your game plan?
Yeah, we're trying to specialize, because as I'm sure Amanda can attest that as a nonprofit, you start doing one strategy and then it's like, but how do we say no to all these other folks that also need us, right? Yeah. At the same time, we only have a limited amount of resources. And so, Lucas and his team has been able to help us with something that we've really needed for the last 20 years. And we're finally going to be able to buy a CRM so that we can collect data so that we can better understand, hey, right now we're making decisions just based on, narratives from our team and our clients. But what about actually looking at our data and saying, you know what, maybe we should start focusing on this or that. And our strategies right now has been to focus on the very small and humble entrepreneurs and small businesses in our community, those that have great ideas and again have had difficult accessing capital. And I can tell you that, even a $10,000 or $15,000 loan with a couple $1,000s in grants and a lot of technical assistance from us really is building generational wealth, or at least a foundation to build generational wealth, because I can assure you that we're not interested in just giving our clients a loan. We're interested in making sure that they have a plan so that they're not in generational debt, but they're building generational wealth.
Brother Henry, what's your own story? How do you come to this work?
Well, I have to thank my parents. My mother and my father are both immigrants. My father's from Mexico, my mother's from El Salvador. They came as undocumented immigrants, and I could tell you, I'm the product of immigrants and hardworking. And I've chosen to come to Minnesota, and I think, like Lucas, I also married into a family of Minnesotans, so I don't think I'll be leaving anytime soon. And I love this place, and I think everybody can agree with me that it also has some work to do. We have some work to do in this state.
Mhm.
But can I tell you, with 20+% of the population, coming from other demographics other than Minnesotans, the future of Minnesota is bright and beautiful. And that is why we need to start investing in businesses and in entrepreneurs that, quite frankly, might not have looked like the businesses and entrepreneurs that were here as recently as 20 years ago. And
Right.
that is the future. The future of Minnesota is to ensuring that these different businesses succeed, and that's what we try to do. Nuestra parte, our part. So.
Okay. Bueno, si quiere, pues podremos hablar en español. Tú sabes que
Yo sé que sabe hablar español, Ali, and one day we should do this all in Spanish, but maybe.
he dicho que yo soy medio cubano. Mi padre es de Cuba y yo soy de aquí, pero de vez en cuando tengo la oportunidad de comunicar en español y me gusta. Pues, let's go on to Amanda. We'll come back to that. Amanda, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me. And it's just always a great time to be with this crew.
Yeah, it is. And it's a great time for us all to be bringing our best gifts to community, to problem solving. Tell us about Repowered. What's the vision? What's the mission? And how does this relationship advance the work that you have shouldered?
You bet. So Repowered used to be known as Tech Dump and Tech Discount. So some may be more familiar with our previous name. We provide fair chances for people, planet, and technology. So we do electronics recycling and refurbishing, and are focused on providing paid job opportunities and training for adults coming back into our community after incarceration.
Awesome.
And, there's a lot more I could say, but some of what I think is the most important piece to bring into our conversation today is we continue to hear about how Minnesota has a labor shortage and that Minnesota needs more people to work. And we're sitting with a wait list of people waiting to come into our program. And so for as much as these dollars can do really big things, we're focused on growing the number of people that we can work with, because we do see this disconnect between employers who are saying we need people and amazing talent that's saying, hey, I'm ready to work. There's just some reentry support that's needed to make sure that people can continue to be successful in the workplace and not only get the job, but keep the job.
So this is training that really has to have two areas of engagement. One is to get the public, businesses, to be aware that this talent exists, the resources there, and can be an answer, right, to the needs that they have. But the other part of that is actually working with and convincing people that because of maybe bad decisions, mental challenges, whatever, ignorance, have put themselves in a position to not be looked at sometimes. And you've got to do some educating there too, right? To get those people sort of in the frame of mind to believe that there is opportunity. Absolutely. If they go through the process. Talk about that, if you would. Does that make sense as a question, or is this?
Oh, it absolutely does. I'm tracking with you, Al.
Okay.
We talk a lot about the fact that we are all defined by our futures, that it's one of our just core beliefs. It's one of our guiding principles. And I think for adults that are coming into our program, to work in a place where you're defined by your future and not your past, it takes some adjusting. It's a very different experience to be in a spot where, like, you can have whatever background you've got, and it's not going to be how you're thought of every day when you come to work. And I will say, we've been around for 12 years at this point, and I've seen a huge shift in the public opinion around maybe somebody that did something 10, 20 years ago. Often there's a story of, well, I was addicted to this, I did this thing, and that's not who I am. But I think we've still got so much work to do on really letting people be defined by their futures and not their past. And it's fascinating to hear employers saying, we need talent. Oh, but I'm still not open to hiring somebody that has had this offense or that offense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have this collective opportunity. I love the framework of the neighborhood as well. We have this neighborhood opportunity to all come together and say, we have the resources that we need to connect with each other, to support each other, to solve the challenges ahead of us. And that's why I'm always in good company with Henry and Lucas and Jenna, and have a lot of optimism at the same time that I have a lot of heartache.
Sure. What's your personal story, Amanda? How did you come to this work, and what have you done? Even let's go deeper. Tell me about your parents. What is the genealogical makeup? Whose shoulders do you stand on that position you in the world to be caring the way that you are?
Yeah, well, with a name like LaGrange, got a lot of French and English in me, but I come from a long family of farmers. I'm a Midwestern gal through and through. I always joke you can take the girl out of Indiana, but you can't take the Indiana out of the girl. So, but I grew up with an amazing extended family as well, and I learned a lot about valuing our resources. I had all my grandparents were brought up during the Great Depression, and so I would often go home with like bread bags turned into baggies, and then also just a really strong belief that it was each one of our duties, our obligations, and honors to support our neighbors in need and to make sure that there wasn't anyone without, because we had everything we needed in our community.
Okay. And then growing up, did you discover a particular gift or capability, a way to assemble the world that puts you on the career path that you're on? How did you get to the career?
Yeah, well, I'm probably not a common kid where I grew up playing business. I literally had a briefcase and fake cell phones and checks. I mean, this is so nerdy, and now this is going to be on the internet forever. But I mean, I did do normal things like house and school and Barbies, but I loved playing business. And so as I grew older, though, I really became pretty disillusioned. I think there's so many unfortunate examples of how business has been not used for good, that it's been very extractive, that certainly there's been a lot of corruption in it. And so to find a way to use business actually for good, to find a way to use business as a way for addressing injustice in our community, it's a true honor. So I always joke that everyone has an art form. And so my art form might not be painting or photography. It might be in the form of spreadsheets and PowerPoints and P&Ls, but
that makes you special. Yeah, go ahead.
That's my art form.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing is the art and the beauty of the numbers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it sounds like when you see a spreadsheet, it's like looking at a sheet of music. Right?
It is.
And
Yeah.
it's singing to you, and you get it.
It tells me all of the things. And I think so often, even for people that love numbers, which I do, we get underestimated for how much we see the value in people. And so really that's what my job is I see the value in every person and in every opportunity in our community. And it's an honor to connect those dots and bring that value into wealth, into power, into the ways that we make change in this community.
Before I go back to Lucas, I wanted you and Henry to tell people how they connect with you. How do they either support your program or use the program? So give the information and then make the invitation. Amanda, you can do it first.
Sounds good. Well, all the information you need is at getrepowered.org. And that's relevant if you want to come and apply for our work readiness program, if you're needing to recycle electronics, or if you need to purchase refurbished electronics. Great deals. Henry, over to you.
Yeah, all of our information is also on our website, ledcmn.org. Again, that's ledcmn.org. There is another LEDC, so I want to make sure you get to the one here in Minnesota. But everyone in our office speaks Spanish, and so as you can imagine, we focus on the Latino community, but we have worked with other immigrant communities, so we welcome. And what we've noticed is, we are very good at being able to connect with you because we have either lived that experience or are children of immigrants, and so there's a connection to any other immigrant community in Minnesota. So again, ledcmn.org.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Vosh, thank you for your comment that you put it. Vosh is on my team, and he was saying that you guys are creating the world that you want to see. Well done, Amanda. That was his comment. Brother Lucas, let me come back to you to wrap this segment up. I just want to thank you again. I wanted to have you, though, take a minute to talk about your company's arc in this community. When did they show up? When did they decide? How did they decide to be present here? And it seems like in the past year or two or three, they've really taken a giant leap to create an expanded presence. So let me know and us, the listeners, know how those decisions come about and what the strategy and game plan is. I mean, everybody looked at Minnesota kind of as a two bank town, either U.S. Bank or Wells Fargo. It used to be Northwestern and First Bank. Many more have come. And things are, because the market is changing, but you guys, Bank of America is Bank of America, big, right? And so I'm just curious, and I'm glad that you have shown up in a way that shakes the market up, and that in the end creates more opportunity for businesses, for consumers, and for the competitive spirit. So tell me about the arc of the presence of the institution in Twin Cities, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, absolutely. And before we
is
go,
that a fair characterization? Is that a fair characterization of the story?
It is.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I've got to say, Amanda, it sounds like you could be a pretty good banker too, based on what you were doing growing up. So, but no, Al, look, we, Bank of America looked at Minnesota and said, first of all, there was a business case for it, right? We said, look, there are a lot of small businesses in the state. You also have really large businesses when you think about our Fortune 500s, right? You've got Target, Ecolab, Best Buy, Medtronic, you name it. And there's really a lot of individuals. We found that, we had Bank of America clients from, the East Coast or the West Coast who had, relocated here, but we didn't have a footprint, right? We didn't have a physical footprint, and that's important. So certainly there was a business case to do it, and we have grown a lot. I mean, in the time that I've been here, so I've been with Bank of America for about 7 years. We went from one banking location to, we have 26 now, right? We've got 78 ATMs. We have roughly 550 employees through our different lines of business. And as impressive as that growth is, right? I think the other things that we're proud of and the reason that we're here, it's also about making sure that we show up where we need to be, right? So Minnesota is a great state, but we also know that there are disparities, right? Minnesota has some pretty big disparities. So when we came in here, we said we also need to be really present in communities that sometimes, quite frankly, get overlooked, right? So we had to focus on saying when we come in, we want to make sure we've got enough retail or banking locations located where everybody can access them, right? So 30% of our locations are located in low to moderate income neighborhoods because we want to make sure that we're there and we show up for those individuals. I think the other thing that makes me really proud is all the work that our employees are doing, right? So since we've grown here and we've hired all these wonderful individuals that work for the company, they're giving back to the community as well. Since 2017, we've seen donations coming from our employees and matching gifts of almost $9 million, right? They've donated over 30,000 hours to working with different organizations within the community. And that's really important. So, you talked about where do we see this going? We want to continue to grow, right? We're going to continue to add more employees. We're going to continue to add more locations because, again, for us to do what we need to do, we need to be in all these communities so people can access our employees. They can access the different services that we offer. And that also gives us a chance to do more in the community. If I could share some of the other things that we do, we talk about the Neighborhood Builders Program, and it's a wonderful program, but there's a lot of other things we're focused on as well. I don't know if you know, Al, but we made an equity investment in Brown Venture Group, which is a Black-owned venture capital firm that's focused on BIPOC business startups, right? That's important. That's another way that we can connect with the community. And then you talk about a bank coming in. We also worked with some other local banks and made an equity investment in First Independence Bank, which is it's a Black-owned bank out of Detroit. And that's an example of an organization like Bank of America saying, hey, like, this is an issue that we need to solve, right?
Together.
Let's get this bank in here. Let's solve it together, because there's a lot of great work that they're going to be able to do as well. And, someone asked me one time, well, like, that's like bringing in competition, right? Isn't that counterintuitive? And we said, well, no, like, this was never an either or proposition. It was just underscoring our effort and our desire to make sure that we're addressing some of these long-standing issues and gaps and things like access to capital for minority-led businesses.
Let me pull the screen up just to tell you how much I appreciate what you're doing and what you're saying, because the proof is in the pudding. So this is a recent Bank of America ad in Insight News. Again, you're telling a big story and telling it in a big way. I can tell my viewers and listeners that you're also, I think, advertising in the upcoming December 5th edition of Insight News. So thank you so much. Thank you. And let's keep working together. I appreciate this chance to be with you. I really appreciate the conversation. I would love to have the connection with the Brown Group. Maybe Lucas, you and I and them could come on and talk about their mission and their vision. I'd love to do that. Let's make that happen.
That sounds great. I look forward to that.
Okay. Listen, I'm going to close this part of the program by thanking Brother Henry, and I'll call you Sister Amanda. Thank you, Amanda LaGrange, for being here. And thank you also for your colleague, Miss Brown, I think it is, for all being here in this part of the program. We'll stay connected and keep working together. Before I switch to my other business guests, I want to take an interlude here, because my friends from the Minnesota Department of Health are here. And I want to take just 3 or 4 minutes to announce an important program that's coming up. Sandy Johnson, Sandy and I were on a call, a regular call, about the Minnesota Department of Health's initiative to prevent prevent the spread of COVID-19 and other challenges, but also to encourage more vaccine use and adoption in our community. And in the process, she mentioned that there's a big AIDS event coming up. So I said, come on today and talk about it. Sandy, how you doing? Good to see you. You unmute. There you go. Now, I'm still not hearing Sandy. Can somebody help us? You're not muted, but I'm not getting audio. So I don't know if my team is following here. And let me see if the problem is broader than that, Sandy. Bring in Marlene, please. And Marlene, are you able to hear me okay? And can I hear you? Unmute yours.
Oh, it's Marlee, like Bob.
Marlee, thank you. Thank you, Marlee. Yeah. So I'm hearing Marlee, but I'm not hearing you, Sandy.
Sandy, I think if you take your headphones out, it might help.
Actually, unplug them from the machine. But I don't know how you're going to hear us if you do. Now unmute. Now try to unmute. Okay. I heard you for a second. I thought I did anyway.
Hi.
There we go. I hear you. You might not be able to hear me though, but take a minute. Okay.
I can hear you.
We'll talk about this event coming up. And thanks for jumping on short notice. It's important. And let's get the word out.
Okay, great. Thank you again for this opportunity. Sandy Johnson from the Minnesota Department of Health, one of the key organizers of the Sarah Simmons Showcase. Tomorrow is World AIDS Day, which is an international acknowledgement and celebration of people who are living with HIV, who are thriving. And we do what we can here at the state of Minnesota by having a big celebration in recognition of World AIDS Day by paying homage and saying thanks to all the work that has been done on the behalf of those who are living with HIV as well as their families. And so we are having a celebration at the 5 Event Center tomorrow in recognition, and it is called the Sarah Simmons Showcase. So we will have a health fair in the beginning with vaccinations as well as COVID testing and monkeypox vaccinations. And we also have a mocktail, so no alcoholic beverages, so just mocktails, so just the pretty kind. And so we're just going to have a good time. We also have a national artist come in. His name is Andy Feds. He will be our headliner. He is going to talk about his experience being a Black man born with HIV and living and thriving so far. And so we'll have him as our national artist, as well as we'll have local artists.
Quickly, has the immensity of the COVID pandemic crowded out our awareness and attention to other challenges like HIV/AIDS?
Indeed, COVID has taken a front seat for the past few years to most other infectious diseases, as well as life in general. So yes, we are definitely having to contend with people feeling that their services and that their needs have not been given the best attention, but we are doing what we can to celebrate, acknowledge, and recognize and pay homage to the people who are living with HIV and making sure that their concerns are elevated and met to the best of our ability, using the resources that we have.
Sandy, keep up the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hopefully this is a free event. Someone can come. Everyone can come.
Okay, great. Maybe we get someone there to cover it for you as well.
Great. Thank you.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation We Continue. And my next guest is, I'm going to call her superstar, Marlee James. She's the CEO of Reviving Roots Therapy and Wellness. Marlee James, thank you for being here. Thank you for what you do. I mentioned earlier that you're a Finnovation Fellow. And what we've been doing over the past several weeks and plan to do in the future is to connect with entrepreneurs and movers and shakers that are involved in the Finnovation experience, the same way we have now with the Neighborhood Builders Project from Bank of America. We think it's important as a newspaper, as a communications platform, that we do all we can every time we can to elevate that the solutions that are necessary are solutions that we hold, to elevate the idea that we are the solution, and that we simply need the energy, the support, the opportunity to bring healing forward in our personal lives and in our community. But it won't happen from outside. We need allies, we need support, we need engagement. But at the end of the day, it's our duty and our responsibility. That's what I think as a communicator. And that's why I'm so pleased to have conversations with leaders like you, whose lives reflect this commitment and this belief that, we got this, we can do it. So take a minute and talk about the Reviving Roots Therapy and Wellness organization, company.
Yeah. So
Thank you for being here.
Reviving Roots started in 2019. I initially started right when I got my my full licensure. And so once I got fully licensed, I was able to start Reviving Roots as a solo practice with the focus on supporting Black and Brown Black and Brown community members. A lot of the people that I was helping before then were people who had issues with trauma, with racial trauma, with historical and intergenerational trauma. And so I really wanted my focus to be on serving that community.
You've got a slide presentation. You can walk us through it if you want to. You want to do that? You want
to? Sure. Yeah.
We can
I really didn't know how to prepare for this. So I was like, we'll just bring everything we got.
Yeah.
And so Reviving Roots started then. I got my office set up in 2020 and really never got to see anybody in that office because COVID started. And so it ended up being me seeing clients on my own. Fast forward to being a Finnovation fellow, learning how to use business as a way to support the community that I serve. I was able to kind of create this idea of sanctuary. And so sanctuary was created with the understanding that there are not a lot of mental health therapists that are people of color and that are Black. And especially after George Floyd, I received a lot of referrals, over 100 referrals actually, for people who were seeking therapy services, specifically from a Black therapist and specifically from somebody who who has like a social justice focus. And so with the recognition that I can't serve all these people, I'm only one person, and only about 5% or less than 5% of mental health clinicians are Black nationwide, I decided to start offering Sanctuary. So Sanctuary is a mental health membership. It offers, there's 3 different kinds of memberships, but they offer mental health therapy, massage therapy, fitness and yoga classes, and culturally curated wellness events. And they're all with this focus on Black-centered, Black affirming wellness. Because again, with the understanding that there's not a lot of us in the field, and also the mental health field on its own it was created with, we'll just say it wasn't created with us in mind. And so to be able to offer these services to the community is really important for me. And so Sanctuary was born, where we got a space coming starting in January, and we'll be able to start offering Sanctuary memberships in spring of 2023. Oh, I can't hear you.
I'm muted to pour water. So where is your space?
The space is near Loring Park. So it's 1625 Hennepin Avenue and Suite 300.
And describe what's available at the space. What happens in the space?
So in the space, we will be offering therapy services, massage therapy, fitness and yoga classes, and culturally curated wellness events, all through the Sanctuary memberships.
What's your fitness and wellness activity look like?
So for fitness classes, we're partnering with organizations like Circle of Discipline to have boxing classes. There will be
in different places around town, not in your office.
No, so everything is all in one space.
Okay, so in your space, you'll have space for that. Amazing.
Yes, it's a very big space. It's a very I'm so excited to have. There are offices for therapy, there are offices for massage, and there is space for these fitness and yoga classes.
Wow.
And for these events. So we'll be having, boxing classes, yoga classes, mindful fitness, and then there'll also be space and time for open meditation. And so again, all of these things are offered through what we're calling Sanctuary memberships. And Sanctuary is kind of an opportunity to heal in community. The focus is on dealing with your mental health issues and individually through therapy and through massage, but then also by going into community and being able to not only receive, but give support as well.
Talk about the relationship between therapy and talk about massage as a therapy and yoga as a therapy. How do these things all tie together as you are offering them?
Yeah, so
If my questions don't make sense, just tell me.
It makes sense.
Okay, all right.
And it's a thing that I think not a lot of people do understand. So I appreciate the question.
Okay.
So when I do therapy with people, I encourage folks to engage not only with their minds, but with their bodies as well. When you can care for your body and your spirit, your mind is cared for as well. And so when we're able to fully engage with our body through yoga practice and to notice when there's a tension in my shoulders, there is, I'm starting to get a headache. I'm noticing, that maybe I need a little bit of water. All of those things contribute to our mental health as well. If you consider, we all know how it feels when you're hungry or when you're thirsty, and you start to get a little irritated and you start snapping on people. And so, when you're able to take care of your mind and your body, or your body and your spirit, your mind is cared for as well. And so by engaging with massage, by practicing yoga, you're training yourself to bring that awareness, not just to your thoughts, but to your physical body as well.
Do you work, you say membership, how's the membership model work, number one? And ask that question in light of, are people able to, are families able to use their insurance to purchase your services? How does that work?
Yeah, so there is a slide. I'm not sure if folks in the background can see it. Yeah, so we have 3 different membership models. And they are all kind of priced to give accessibility to members of the Black community. And so we have digital sanctuary, and signature including all of the things, massage and counseling services. So how it works is you choose your membership option. And at the moment, insurance companies do not accept insurance or do not pay out for these memberships. However, if you have services, say you have an individual therapy session that you want to add on top of this, usually people want more than one therapy session. Those sessions can be added on and can be paid through insurance. The model, the pricing of the model that I've set is really with the people in mind, because therapy sessions generally are $150 per session. Massage therapy sessions are generally about $80 per session. And so to make things more accessible for folks, I wanted to make sure that even in the signature membership, you're getting a good price for the services that are being offered.
Do you have a team of therapists? Are you building a team of therapists, or?
I'm building a team of therapists now. Right now, it's a solo practice. I receive funding through the city of Minneapolis, through Hennepin County, and through the federal government to start hiring folks. So in December and January, I'm going to be hiring a therapist, a mental health therapist, a massage therapist, as well as some yoga and fitness instructors, so we can get this started soon, very, very soon.
I think this is wonderful. I am always happy to share with people that and have a discussion that you can take from where I'll bring it about Black people and mental health and Black people and mental health therapy, or engaging the training, the talent, the knowledge that the Marlee Jameses of our community, far too few of them, right? Far too few of you. You've mentioned the numbers, 5% nationwide in that field. But I think it's critically important that we have discussions about mental health all day, every day among us. And so I tell people that one of the high points of my week is my Friday morning session, every Friday morning with my therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I work with a friend of yours, Dr. Bravada Garrett Akinsanya
Mm-hmm.
at Brakens Consulting and Psychological Services, and work with her on the African American Child Wellness Institute project as a member of her board of directors. But I tell people that not only am I on her board, and not only is she a customer of mine because she buys advertising in my newspaper, but I'm a customer of hers, right? Because I purchase her services, and I'm glad to do it because it's a Black company, number one. Number two, I know that I have a need to get feedback, to get advice, to get direction, to have someone I can talk to, and not be judged. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe I'm being judged. I don't know, but it's not coming back to me as judgment, and someone listens to me and suggests things, well, what about this? And one of the things that gets suggested all the time, this is why I was relating to it, was what are you doing for your personal care? And Al, you've been talking about all this equipment you got in your garage, your gym. Did you go? And next week, did you go? Next week, did you go? Well, let's modify, not a condemnation, but let's modify the plan. And what I've been able to do is modify it and bring part of the equipment into one of my rooms upstairs so that when I take my meds in the morning, between each medicine, I'll do reps. And
that's beautiful.
It's a baby step.
Yeah.
And where it's going to go is me going back out to my gym. That's where I want to go.
Yeah.
I've been putting it off. So anyway, what's the point here? The point is, as a Black man who's 75 years old and who's in business, in leadership in the community, it's critically important that we look at resources like those you are providing, the Dr. B provides, and we focus on look at what it means to be healthy of mind, healthy of spirit, and healthy of body. And I just want to say thank you, and whatever I can do to elevate and keep that conversation going, that brings both people to you to get your service, but also brings your message out to the community. Count me in, I'm on board.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And one thing that Reviving Roots is working to do is work with organizations so that they can offer sanctuary to their employees, to their staff. We're talking with folks at like the University of Minnesota to support their counseling students because, there's not a lot of us in the field. And part of the reason for that is that we get burnt out while we're going to school for therapy. And so, the more that we can support that staff, the more that we can support, change makers in our community, the more that everyone does well. And so that's really, that's the reason why Reviving Roots exists, is to support the members of the community that are like you, who are doing good work.
I throw this out all the time just because I never know where it's going to land. I'm sure somebody's going to hear it and pick up on it. But I make reference to my grandma who used to, like everybody else's grandma, say, boy, mind your business, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the metaphor. The metaphor is, what is your business? And I've come to know, and I say now, that in that spirit, our health is our business.
It is.
And I mean that any way you cut it or slice it, this is our business.
Yes.
And it means that you have to pay attention to your health, to your mind, your body, your spirit. But it also means the apparatus, the resources, the institutions, the organizations that are supported by and that support you paying attention. You got to be at the table. And so the business of health is a big business. Like everybody else, I say, I want to be around when Mayo creates and produces a cancer preventing pill, right? But on the way from there to here, billions and billions have been organized, mobilized, attracted, and deployed towards the vision of providing a solution. I say, shouldn't we be thinking about how we can mobilize our people, our talent, our education, our training, so that we have a concentrated but financially viable, pathway to focusing our energy and our attention on our health, our wellness, our well-being, making our health our business. The billions, we talk about disparities all the time, right? And I think we can't bemoan that. We have to say, let's fix it and get in the business of fixing. So what do you think about that? I'll go on and on forever. I'm going to stop and let you flow.
Well, no, I think I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And that's also why I started Reviving Roots, and why I'm really thankful that I had Finnovation Fellowship to kind of to mold my idea, because in health, and especially in mental health, it's really hard to form a business that does not need to be sustained or supported by outside funding. And a lot of that is because insurance doesn't support or pay for services that are supportive of mental health. So, massage is not, you can't go through insurance to get massage sessions. You can't go through insurance to pay for your yoga classes or any of those things.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. There we go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so a part of my goal in creating this membership model is not only to make the services accessible, but also to kind of have this, to kind of be an innovator and try to change the way that the mental health system operates as a whole. And so by making these services more accessible, and also by connecting with insurance companies and saying, this is something that people are paying for, this is something that people want. Why aren't you offering this? It was just, a few years ago, maybe a decade ago, where people started to pay for, or where insurance companies started to pay for mental health therapy. And so to keep putting new things in the market, to offer sanctuary and say, this is something that people think is important. And also to bring in that cultural awareness piece and that cultural representation within mental health are all of the things that that sanctuary membership is trying to achieve. And so, yeah, I love the idea and this conversation about like, how do we get there? Because this model is my attempt at how we get there, and hopefully something that folks can engage with and even emulate if it's successful.
Marlee, what's your background? Where are you from?
I'm from Minnesota. I am from the suburbs of Minnesota. I went to the U of M for college, and I left and went to Boston College for grad school. And while I was there, I studied under the Institute for the Study and Race of Culture and Race. And so the focus was on learning about the historical context of mental health and how our culture affects our mental health.
Where do you see it going? We've got about a minute or two left. Where do you see the profession going? And how do you see Black people, African people, both being impacted by and impacting the direction of the service and the discipline? Is there an African way of knowing and of being that will support our own dignity and humanity differently from maybe what you touched on it, that the original model did not have us in mind, didn't recognize our pain, our life, our lives didn't matter. But you and those in your cohort show up to say our lives do matter, and that really our lives are foundational to humanity's advancement. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah, there's a way there, we call it theoretical orientation, which just means how we engage with therapy, how we engage with our clients. And so I follow the liberation focused theoretical orientation, which focuses on being aware of culture, being aware of context, being connected with the earth, and being connected with the generations that came before us and that go and that will follow us. And so, with that understanding that mental health services were not created with us in mind, I see going forward that we are creating these services with us in mind. I like to say that a lot of folks think that Black folks don't want to go to therapy, but generally we want to go to therapy. I had like 100 people on my wait list.
Yeah, yeah.
We want to go to therapy. We want
I
to
know
support
people that can't
ourselves,
get in.
but we don't like our options. We
Yeah.
don't like what is out there for us. We don't
Right.
want to be told that,
Yeah.
I've had so many clients tell me that their therapist told them that their experiences of racism did not exist, that they didn't happen. And that was just, harming them all over again. And so to be able to create something that is collective and that is supporting the collective healing of Black folks, I think that's where we're going. And I hope it continues.
Marlee James, thank you so much. Reviving Roots Therapy and Wellness. Check them out. And we'll be standing by to support you and promote you. And I want to invite you back to our Friday sessions with Dr. B, because we have, Dr. Oliver Williams too, I'm sure.
I don't, but I need to,
You need to know them. You need to know them. And we have conversations like this every Friday. I think we're going on hiatus maybe after this Friday for the month, but we'll be starting again. But I'll connect with you about that. But
I'd love to.
I'm loving this conversation, and I thank you so very, very much for being here. Congratulations on all you're doing.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Well, what a wonderful show, wonderful guests, wonderful topics, and thank you for being a part of this process. We intend to really go focused on building our presence on and through YouTube. So you might be checking us out through Facebook or through LinkedIn or through Twitter, and we appreciate that. But we want to build our numbers now going into 2023, establish and set some subscriber targets. So what I want to do right now is ask that if you've enjoyed this program, go to YouTube, to the Insight page at YouTube, and subscribe and like and share. And I'm going to also ask you to tell all of your friends, all of your neighbors, that an important conversation is happening over here and that they should be a part of it because you are a part of it. So I'm asking you to join me in moving our thoughts and our ideas to the center of the stage where they belong to, and to move this idea, this notion of our people as the solution, not the problem. And only we can say that to ourselves and say it to the world. So go to Insight News on YouTube, subscribe. Let me know you subscribe. Send me a message, send me a note. You can reach out to me easily. My email is al@insightnews.com. But join us and be involved. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.